Good morning, happy Friday, and most importantly, the very last day of, at least for now, of Coffee with a Farmer and Resource Manager with the Farms Leadership Program. And we started all of this on March 30th, and here we are, almost the end of May, the last Friday in May, and we are completing this 2 months of incredible interviews and discussions with Rene Massey today from AC Operations in Bakersfield, and she is the Director of Human Resources. So it's going to be a great conversation with her about all of the things that, we at the Farms Leadership Program talk about, like the opportunities that all of you out there have in agriculture and natural resources and what it takes to get to the places you want to go. So perfect opportunity to end today with Rene, and as we always do, we'll start with the question of the day. And because today is the last one, again for now, for this school year, the question for all of the staff in their intros is, what are you taking away from this last 2 months? And I think 44 with today episodes of Coffee with the Farmer Resource Manager. So I'm going to start today with Dana. We're going to shake it up a little, and instead of me starting, Dana's going to start. So go ahead, Dana.
Good morning, everybody. Friday. I'm the Tehama County Farms Leadership Program Coordinator, so I'm in Red Bluff. And Mary asked for us to kind of say what we've taken away from all this, and today's hard day. Last day of this, which I feel like has really been a great opportunity for us to just kind of show our commitment to our students and our just our passion for the education and agriculture, and that through the good times, the bad times, we're going to be here. So taking my kids to say goodbye to their teachers today, and this just is a hard way for it to be ending. So, but on the bright side, I'm just thankful that we have come together as a team and really been able to stay committed and be there for each other, and hopefully for all you that have joined us and watched, and whether it's been live or whether you've been one of our students that's watched the YouTube channel or somebody who just stumbled upon it. We're super thankful to be here for you, and I'm very lucky to be part of this farms program and have this great team that you've met through these webinars. So we'll be sticking with it. Like Mary said, this is our last one for right now, but we'll be back in the fall. We take the summer to kind of get our programs back in order and stuff, and whatever the fall brings to us, we're gonna be here. So thank you for everybody for being there.
Thank you, Dana. Thanks for making us cry. Appreciate that. It's so true. Okay, Katie, you are up.
So I wasn't, yes. So just to say what Dana said, this experience has been amazing. Being able to learn outside of my region. I am in the Central Valley and I'm coming to you from Fresno, but being able to see part of Tehama County and Sacramento and Kern County and Salinas, just to show everyone the diversity of agriculture, and through education and the support of our partners and our teachers, the administration, the students that tuned in, and the students that will get a lot out of this throughout the years to come, because they are all public and they are all live. But I'm also very excited to continue this, whether it be through virtual field days that I believe we're going to have to kind of gear towards, but I'm hoping to make those the best that they can be for our students, and just continue the education. So thank you everyone for listening, and I'll pass it off to Joseph.
Morning all. Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for all of you who have been with us this entire time. The students have been watching religiously, those that have been, watching us on YouTube, all of our, sponsors, our donors, Mary for, like her idea, this whole COVID thing, we still have a job to do. We still have to connect with students, show them all the awesome things about ag, stuff that I didn't know, which, just getting to that, I had no idea there was so much out there. I thought, there's just the people that pick whatever the produce is, the farmers, maybe there's a like accounting person, and that's it. I had no idea, to be fully honest. And I'm only 45 minutes away from all of that. And I'm just so appreciative to just be a part of this. So blessed, so thankful, fortunate. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And thank you everyone who's been a part of making this happen.
Sorry, I didn't mean to skip you, Joseph. I tend to do that. I see Katie and I don't know what it is. I just say, Katie. Didn't mean to do that. Okay, Romy, you're up. Bakersfield girl.
Good morning. My name is Romy Wattenbarger. I'm the Kern County Farms Coordinator here in Bakersfield. And just through this experience, I'm really thankful for all the companies that joined on and that we got to experience their day in the life of what they do every day, and just experiencing how much is out there. And it makes me look forward to going to all these companies and just see what's all out there and what they can show our students and let them learn. So I'm really thankful for this experience.
Thank you, Romy. And you were new to farms, as was Joseph, very fairly recently, and you had to trial by fire, and you guys have just been awesome. So I just want to finish out by thinking about, I was thinking this morning about how, when we scheduled these Coffee with the Farmers, first of all, the response that we got from the industry, from our partners, from people who we'd never actually met before as an organization, we're like, yes, absolutely. And I got to be honest, I was skeptical that everybody would, as we got closer to the dates, that they would be like, yeah, we're ready. We've got it on our calendar. We're ready. We'll be there. And I figured we'd have a bunch of folks who couldn't end up doing it because they're busy. And we had one out of this entire 2 months, one that couldn't do it. And that amazing, completely legitimate reason. And within 5 minutes, I had a new person to take their place. And so I think that just shows again, like what everybody's been saying, the commitment of the industry, again, the commitment to to education, the commitment to the students, and how much people want to share what they do, how much pride they have, and in agriculture, natural resources, their jobs, their companies, and also this whole welcoming spirit of we have jobs and opportunities for you no matter what you want to do. You have those opportunities in ag and natural resources. So I hope that those who've been watching, those who will watch, have gathered that from all of these. Even if you only watched 2 or 3, it's okay. I'm sure you heard that and you experienced it. And if you didn't, I just want to make sure you understand that these folks are wanting you, and you have a place in agriculture. So Dana started me with the crying, and now I'm going to keep crying. So it has been really powerful, and I'm very appreciative to everybody who's done this. So with that, we've got Rene Massey this morning, and it's like I said, it's come full circle, because what we're about is workforce development. What we're about is connecting people to the opportunities in food, agriculture, natural resources, conservation, and hopefully leading them on a career pathway into that. Now, if you don't end up going into any of those careers, that's fine too, because in agriculture, because now you know a lot more about where your food comes from, you know a lot more about the issues out there. But it's perfect that Rene is with us today, because she's gonna really help us even continue to solidify that side of the getting a job and being a part of a company and how to get there. So Rene, it's great to see you this morning. We haven't met. You're one of those people who raised your hand and said, we want to be a part of this, and we can't thank you enough for that. So I know that was a long intro, but it's important. And go ahead and introduce yourself, where you're from, some of your background, and how in the world did you get into human resources at AC Operations in Bakersfield?
It's been a long road, but thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to join all of you. I know that you spoke with my boss a few weeks ago, Vincent Serena. So I am also born and raised in Bakersfield, went to college here in town. I actually, at the time of graduation, had applied for an internship through a nonprofit organization that I was working with at the time. And it was in Switzerland. And I was very prepared to make a move out of the country, ended up being one of the top 2 candidates and did not receive that position. The other candidate from another part of the US, he was able to speak a second language and I was not. So it kind of, you know, at that point when I applied for that position, I was like, okay, I could be moving to another country, or I could be staying here. So it was looking at all of my options and then, you know, disappointed that I was not selected, but it really started the road to where I am now. And I honestly believe that I have landed in ag and that's where I'm supposed to be. Out of college, I went to work for a title and escrow company in customer service. My degree is in communications with a minor in English. And through that position, I moved on to a real estate development company. And I had worked my way up to be communications manager, which at the time really was my goal. I worked with various nonprofits. We had a program where we would donate to local charities. So I got to work with all of those charities, learn about them, meet the people that work there as well as people that they serve. And it really was my passion. But then the market took a downturn. And in 2007, we started laying people off at that company. I was asked to move into the HR office, which I did so in January of 2008. And I kept my communications manager role as well as took on HR and payroll, of which I learned very quickly that maybe payroll wasn't my passion. But I did that for 3 years until I was eventually laid off from that company. So at that time, I had to determine, where do I see myself in the future? Because of the downturn in the market, I was like, is every company going to be hiring a communications manager? And I really had to think long and hard about that and decide what was going to be my future. And I decided to stay in HR, and I'm here today. And it's, you know, I feel like over the last 11, 12 years, it's been a gradual process, and I have been very fortunate to surround myself with people that were very supportive. And I would encourage all the students that are listening to find either a person or a small group of people that are there to support you. At my very first job at the title company working in customer service, the boss that hired me, and I was referred to him by somebody. I had been working at a real estate office. I started in high school and did that throughout college. And I was referred to him by a real estate agent that I had been working with. And to this day, he is one of my best friends. And I do not make a career move without talking to him first. So it's surrounding yourself with people that support you, encourage you, tell you things that you may not want to hear about yourself, but it also helps you grow. Sometimes we get in such a fast-paced atmosphere that we start to digress and maybe don't always look at ourselves and how we can improve ourselves. And so I would just strongly encourage people, if they don't already have someone, to find that person. And over your career, you may build that support system with other people. I have, but I still have Greg in my corner and has been for so many years. So he's always been encouraging, but always been the person that can say, you really need to look at these options. You know, what exactly are you looking for? And it just helps balance out. And sometimes I think, you know, job opportunities come our way and we oftentimes get excited about it and may make a jump before we really look into where's that going to take us on a career path. So just nice to have somebody to discuss those options with. But growing up here, really, I came into ag in January of 2016 for the first time, and learned so much about everything that's been going on around me. After the real estate development company, I went to work for a medical facility. Always great opportunities, but realized that probably medical is not where I wanted to be. But it was such a great learning experience. I was there for 4 years. I still talk to many of the employees that I worked with there. It was very fast paced, many people there, and the more people, the more personnel issues that can arise. So a very, very good learning experience for me, but had an opportunity to move to Columbine Vineyards in 2016, and what a blessing it's been for me.
That's so cool, Renee, and I really appreciate that point about mentorship, right? And finding people to support you along the way, because you tend to forget that. And like you said, making those jumps, if you don't really think through things, you know, I've had staff who've come back years later and said, I shouldn't have left. And, you know, that was the wrong move. And I was so excited about something at the time, but I didn't think it through and didn't have really anyone to talk to about it. So, you know, that's a very good point. And no matter where you are in your career journey, whether you're just starting it, you know, many students that we work with, they're teachers, you know, they're ag teachers or they're environmental science teachers or whatever it is, are those links for them, are those support mechanisms. And I can tell you that those teachers love hearing from you years later or a year later, whatever it is, and said, you know, can you advise me? Can you help me with these next steps? They love that. And so don't forget them as you move along as well, that they have been there for you and they want to continue to be there for you. That's maybe one of those options that you have as a support system to move forward. So what is HR? Like, what in the world do you do as an HR director or in HR? And tell us too about kind of your interaction with hiring or new employees and some ideas there for our students as they move forward in this world of beyond high school, in college, looking at their next steps.
Gosh, HR can be so many things. There's some departments are specialized. People focus specifically on benefits or recruiting. I have always been in an HR department where it was all encompassing. So I currently oversee our benefits plans. I work with our broker in researching plans, what we're going to offer to our employees, as well as, you know, handling our handbook and our policies, those types of things, whether it's working and we're drafting something internally or I'm working with legal counsel to create policies, and all the way down to personnel matters, and the very minute details of write-ups and unfortunately terminations, counseling sessions. So my team, I have a team of 5, and that's 4 HR staff as well as a benefits administrator, who really, she focuses whenever anybody has questions about benefits or, you know, questions with coverage or their cards, they go directly to that person. But the rest of the team, we are all encompassing very busy days. I have 2 staff on site at our Dinuba location. In Delano, we have 1, and at Wood Lake, we have 1. So they also help cover, we have a location in Arvin as well. So the Delano person helps cover that location. We have a branch in Lindsay, and so our Dinuba staff helps cover that, as well as our Silver Mountain packing facility in Oregon. We have 6 employees there. The remainder of the staff there are through a staffing agency that work on the packing line, but we do have staff there that have needs. So we do cover a lot. Our Dinuba facility, even though the majority of that staff, and at peak it's about 450, the majority of those employees are through staffing agencies. But there are still issues that need to be handled on a daily basis. Things are hopping there all the time. So it is, it's one of those that every day is a new day. Obviously some days are busier than others, just like any job. I would say right now, probably 95% of my time is dealing with COVID matters.
I was going to ask you about that. Like what's, I'm sure, what kinds of things have changed in the last 3 months for you?
Yeah, it really started out slow. But then unfortunately we had some positive cases at one of our facilities, and we've been dealing with that pretty much around the clock, working with the staffing agencies. If those positive cases were through the staffing agency personnel, we obviously don't have any of their personnel information. So we've got to work closely in keeping communication with those employees, as well as our own employees, which is checking up on people. How are they feeling? Making sure that any internal paperwork is being handled in a much more timely manner than we would normally. You know, we try to keep our paperwork very up to date, and we've gone paperless with personnel files. But in the midst of COVID, it has very much taken over all of our schedules, with projects that we had been working on pushed to the side for now. So hoping that things might start to slow down a little, but only time will tell.
Well, I think we just had the single largest day yesterday in California for cases. So unfortunately, I think it's a ways to go. And yes, there are certain areas of the state, obviously, that are being hit harder than others. But yes, I can imagine that in your, in your line of work, that this is absolutely all encompassing, and unfortunately, other things that maybe you had been working on, like hiring new staff, maybe have had to be put on hold. So kind of moving to that hiring new staff piece, or just, tips for our students, again, as they move forward. What are some of the things that you look for when you're hiring, or when you're communicating, even before someone comes in for an interview? What are and again, you may not be doing that, but I think you have done it probably in your his past experiences. What are some of the things that stand out to you? What are some of the things that students, as they move forward, should be thinking about in this process of job?
I spoke to a group of high school seniors. They were all girls that were going through a program, and talked to them specifically about interviewing and the importance of being mindful of your professionalism. And I know when people are in high school, or coming out of high school and into college, maybe they haven't had a lot of experience in interviewing. And it's helpful if you can talk to somebody about interview questions, what to wear, how you should present yourself, what you should walk into the interview with. There's so many things that can turn the person that's interviewing you off.
Yeah.
And it's just helpful for people to know, when they're walking into an interview, should I take my purse? Am I going to fidget with my purse? Do I walk in without a purse or hold my cell phone? Should I take in my cell phone? I don't feel that people need to walk in with a cell phone because you really have no use for your cell phone while you're in an interview. So it's one less thing that you have to worry about. I oftentimes see people come in with a portfolio, which to me is perfectly acceptable. They may have a couple of copies of their resume just in case someone else is in the interview that may have not seen the resume yet, which is helpful. Whenever I schedule interviews with a group of people, I always try to make sure that everyone has seen a copy of the resume for the candidates that are coming in, so that they can review and look at experience and see what questions they may have outside of the normal questions that we might answer or ask the candidate. But I would say be very mindful in your appearance and be professional. You don't have to go out and spend a lot of money on clothes. A nice button-down shirt, slacks, wear shoes that you're comfortable walking in.
That is really good advice.
Don't wear.
A lot of people teetering in.
Yeah.
That's not helpful.
I feel like I've seen it all. I've interviewed people in ag that may come to an interview in jeans. I do think that in some instances that is very acceptable. I like to see how people present themselves in the workforce, and in ag, it is very customary that we have the option of wearing jeans every day. But for the most part, depending upon where you're going for an interview, if you're going to a field office for say, that wearing jeans, I would say is very acceptable. If you're meeting at a corporate office or something like that, you may want to rethink that. And I never think that it hurts to ask. If you're talking to somebody in HR when they're scheduling an interview with you, don't be afraid to ask, what would you recommend that I wear? When I worked at the medical facility, sometimes people would be coming in scrubs because they were coming on a lunch hour from their current position. And to me, that's very acceptable. I wouldn't expect somebody to go home, change, and then have to go back to work. And I've had candidates say, I am coming from another position and this, I will have my work uniform on. Is that okay? And I always appreciate comments like that. I would rather have somebody be open and I can communicate that to the people that are interviewing so that they're prepared. If they have, 4 people coming in and 3 people have suits on and 1 person is in a work uniform. Yeah. Or whatever the case may be. So, and I will offer, if there's any students that are looking for sample questions or do a mock interview, Mary, you have all my contact information, and that certainly can be passed out, and anyone can reach out to me with, if they just want a list of questions so they can practice, and then I can get on a call with them and go over, what is the question? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, exactly. The one that everybody asks.
And even right now, how would I answer that? I'm not quite sure. Sure. It's one of those that you always want to prepare for. But I always like to throw in fun questions so that people aren't, people are nervous anyway coming into an interview, but I have oftentimes thrown in, what does your closet look like? And they kind of go, what?
That's awesome.
Yeah, what's your closet look like? I will tell you some of the answers are quite comical. But I did hire someone as my assistant at the medical facility, and she explained her closet in great detail. Her husband was colorblind, and so she had all of his clothes color coordinated so that he literally just pulled out a shirt and pants. And I thought, if her closet looks like this, her desk is going to be this organized. And sure enough, obviously she had other qualities that I found
Yeah.
it very helpful. But she did not have the most HR experience out of all the candidates that I had interviewed. But her presence and her professionalism, and then I just thought, if her closet's that organized, her desk must be that way. And sure enough, her desk was very organized. I mean, I would go in and ask her for something and she could pull it up right away. So that was just how she worked. And we ended up making a great team and are still in contact today, to keep in touch. And she often reminds me that I asked her that question. So I guess it stuck very well in her mind. But, so I try to keep things light.
Yeah, no, I thank you for offering the questions as well as being willing to do some mock interviews over Zoom, because those are the kinds of things we're thinking about as we move forward. Not, just because of COVID, but that's a big reason, is we are trying to help our students into the kind of some of their first jobs, whether it's an internship or even a job shadow for part of the day. And or more permanent jobs as they move on and out of college, and right now it's a little crazy. So normally we'd be trying to set up interviews and summer internships, and so we're kind of trying to think about what do we do for this summer. So things like that, Renee, and I would guess that you probably have colleagues at other companies and things like that. And so we definitely we'll follow up with you on that. And certainly folks who are in the Bakersfield area, and beyond. I mean, we can do Zoom from wherever, right? So great opportunity, and we really appreciate that. And I love those tips about clothing, because it can go both ways. You can have people who are really overdressed.
Yes.
And they're so uncomfortable, and I feel so badly, and they're like sweating, and because they're in a suit and everybody else isn't, and they are all nervous. And so I so appreciate your point about ask the questions before you go. It's okay. And actually, like you said, I'd much rather have people ask me, much rather.
Yes, absolutely.
They feel comfortable when they're there. That they are wearing the right thing, that they're arriving at the right time, all of those things, right?
And also to be mindful that the minute you step into that office, most of the time, the receptionist or front desk person is aware that you're coming in for an interview.
Oh, yeah.
And very mindful that they are watching. And I do know a company here in town that the receptionist was involved in basically the overall interview process, and they would get her input when candidates would come in. And I think that people kind of forget that, but it's, you don't want to be sitting in the lobby talking on your phone. That's why I'm like, when you're going to walk into an interview, there's absolutely no reason for you to have your phone. To walk into the portfolio is perfectly acceptable. I noticed that sometimes when ladies bring in a purse, they don't know do I set it in the chair next to me? Do I put it on the floor? Those types of things. And then, you're trying to figure out where you're going to sit. I'm like, just leave your purse. Don't even bring your purse in, because then you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about picking it up after the interview. I'm
sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, those are all really great. Other staff, you guys have any other questions or things that have come up for you that you wanted to ask Renee about, whether it's questions that students have had over the years of whether they're going in for interviews for internships or otherwise, that you'd like her to address?
I'm sure I do, but I don't right now. But go ahead, Joseph.
You've got something?
Yeah. So when would you say is an appropriate time to show up? I mean, what's too early? What's too late? I would feel like a minute beforehand is obviously too late. Like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, is 30 minutes too early?
I think if you're 10 to 15 minutes early, that's more than sufficient. Sometimes, interviews run short, and if I don't typically have people just stacked up in a lobby waiting. So I would say that 15 minutes max. That way, if they've finished another interview early, or that previous person was early and they started early, then when you're interviewing and you have a lot of candidates, it can be a very daunting task for the team. You're trying to write notes in between. So, they do like to have a few minutes in between just to jot down notes, but then they're usually just ready, especially if you've got, 5, 6 candidates coming in over, maybe like a 3-hour span. You want to keep things going, but I don't think you need to be any earlier than 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had folks show up way too early, and honestly, it's bad because your other person might be leaving, or it's just uncomfortable, and so yeah, too early can be problematic for other reasons. So I agree on the 10 to 15, and I also, Rene, it's interesting that you talk about this whether it's receptionist or whatever, that is part of that team in terms of it's how you treat that person too when you get there.
Right.
And to your point about talking on the phone, you're having some kind of a conversation. Who knows what it's about? Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't even go there. Be prepared. Prepare yourself for the interview. Sit in there, maybe go through your portfolio, look through some notes, right? To kind of get yourself psyched up and motivated and ready. And be nice to the receptionist and all of those kinds of things. So, because they do count. I was in a leadership program, and the interview, again, didn't know that either. And the receptionist was definitely part of the decision making about whether someone should move on in this the ag leadership program. And they had a greeter. So the greeter, oh, welcome. So glad to see you. You had a little conversation with them before you went into your interview. They were part of the interview process. Oh. Didn't know it. But it's all about that professionalism, about, how you present yourself, how you're treating others, what you're doing when you're waiting. Are you taking the opportunity to ask that greeter or ask that receptionist about the company? Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, you could get some great information from that. How long have you worked here? What do you like best about this company? Absolutely. Whatever, right? Things like that. I think, be curious, ask questions. It's not a problem to ask questions. I think people feel like maybe that's an intrusion or they can't ask, and that's absolutely not the case. We all on this side of it appreciate the questions. Joseph, you've got another one?
I do have another one. Okay. So this is less for me because as a man, jewelry isn't really so much of a thing. For the most part, I got a wedding band and maybe I wear a watch, but not much else. When it comes to like women coming in for an interview, what's an appropriate amount of jewelry? I would feel like, probably depending on the job, maybe not some facial jewelry, but like size earrings, like with like how many necklaces and a watch and a bracelet. Like I feel like there's a lot that could be good or bad. And then rings, of course, I feel like there's a lot that could be go good or bad, just like that.
I would recommend to keep it minimal: earrings, necklace, bracelet, watch, but nothing that's going to allow the interviewers to be looking at something other than you and what your answers are, and that it's not distracting. And I say the same thing about clothing, that, it needs to remain professional for ladies, nothing low cut. You don't want to detract from yourself and your skills. But I've seen it in an interview where you're just sidetracked by somebody dressing so poorly. And it's like, are you going to an interview or are you ready to go to the club when you leave the interview? So it's just being mindful of those things. But I would say keep the jewelry simple, because you also don't know what the dress code is at that company. You know, many companies, for safety reasons, do not allow piercings, you know, whether it's tongue piercing or those types of things. So you need to be mindful, even if you don't have the dress code in front of you at the time that, you know, obviously if they're not providing that information to you. When I have oftentimes emailed candidates, not necessarily now, but at my previous company, which was medical, we did not allow for facial piercings unless it was earrings or if it had religious meaning. So I would indicate that when I would schedule the interview and send a confirmation email with the time and the location, I would let people know that about our dress code so that they could be prepared in the event that it was an issue for them. I mean, there may be some people that they decide that's not the right place for them, which I totally respect.
Better to find out beforehand.
Exactly. And we have, I mean, when we would have panels of interviewers, I would oftentimes bring up to candidates, you know, we do have a dress code, you know, if you're in the profession where you're wearing scrubs. I worked at a cancer facility, so obviously we were very sensitive to our patients. And unfortunately, I had to tell people, you can't wear scrubs that have a skull on them. I know skulls are popular, but that's not something appropriate that you would wear to work in a cancer facility. So, but it's things like that that people are just like, I didn't even really think about it. I'm like, okay. You know, I mean, to me, it was just, I would think that you would know that, but it's sharing that information with people so that if they were hired and they come to work, they're fully prepared.
Yeah.
And know what they're walking into on day one.
Yeah. So I do have a question about thank yous. Do you thank the whole like if it's a paneled interview, do you thank the whole panel? Do you ask for business cards, or do you just email, or is email appropriate? Or send a little thank you just to the, the hiring manager or whoever scheduled your interview?
I mean, I think it's appropriate if somebody wants to ask for business cards. Do I think it's necessary? No. Oftentimes when I've received thank you letters, I share those with the team that was interviewing so that they know that that person sent in a thank you. I don't think it's necessary to send one to each person. I do think, although a handwritten note is very nice, I do think that email is very appropriate.
And on that note, Katie, it's a good one. Rene, do you look at someone differently if they did send a thank you versus someone who didn't? Is that in any way a contributor to your decision making?
It might help.
It's a hard question because I am someone that grew up sending thank you cards for birthday gifts and Christmas gifts.
Yeah.
I probably am not as good at it now as I used to be, but I have friends who they didn't grow up doing the same thing. So I don't ever want to fault someone for not having that be a part of something that they do. So that's a tough one.
Yeah, it is hard because it's true that's not really taught as much now too. And
yes,
I for me, I have a hard time when someone doesn't send a thank you, an email, quick. Doesn't have
that's right.
I'm like, really? You couldn't take 5 minutes or less and send a quick thank you. Very short is fine. So that to me is very, I don't know, it's telling, I suppose.
And I would say that when I get a thank you card, people score points.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they do. I just don't know that everybody has that same, because I'll be honest with you, it's been a long time since I got a thank you card after an interview.
Wow.
Now, as I think about that right now,
Mm.
it's been a while.
That's so interesting. That's interesting to me. What's going on with our training, right, out there of how to do interviews and what are the protocols, and it's very interesting. So, well, thank you. That was great. Shiva, I know we've got quick time for Shiva to ask a question. This is awesome. So Shiva, go ahead and introduce yourself. Katie's got you opened up, and tell Rene your name and where you're from.
Hi, my name's Shiva Keller. I'm sorry it's super loud. I'm on the bus, but my name is Shiva Keller. I'm a graduate from Sacramento Charter High School, period. And I want to know because, like, usually if you have a problem at a store or company, it's like, oh, I'll send you to HR. So, like, who has more power, the CEO or human resources?
Did you hear that, Rene?
Or I don't think I heard the whole piece.
Who has the crux of the question is who has more power, the CEO or human resources?
For an interviewing, well, I'll be
I think just in general is what she's referring to. But
I would clearly say the CEO. You know, I work closely with an array of managers, but you know, depending upon who is in an interview panel, you may not necessarily have the CEO, but you could have a VP, you could have a general manager, you could have a manager. But ultimately, I would say I'm there to assist them in selecting the right candidate for the department, for the team. And remember that it's not always the candidate that's selected is not always the candidate that has the most or best experience.
mm-hmm.
Because while we don't hire people to meet your best friend at work, if it happens, great. But we hire people to do a job and help support departments and help support companies in their goals. And we have to be mindful of the teams that we're putting people in. And you may get a candidate that doesn't have as much experience as another, but they would be a great fit in that department.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to be mindful of, that people that are interviewing are looking for, because they might be interviewing on behalf. Sometimes they'll have managers in an interview as well as a team member.
Mm-hmm.
And that team member is really looking to see who might be the best fit. Sometimes it is the person with the best qualifications, and sometimes it may not be. And that's okay. Because we want people to be happy when they're at work. If we all have to get up in the morning and go to work every day, we want to be happy at what we do, and we want to be happy with the people that we're working with. I mean, we spend so much time with individuals outside of our own families and friends that, you know, people at work may not be hanging out outside of work, but we want people to enjoy each other while they're there, as well as, you know, accomplish our goals and working towards, you know, different department goals and company goals. But I would definitely say, to go back to your question, that the CEO, I mean, they are in charge of the company. So, and HR is there to assist, although a very integral part, but the CEO would have more power.
I think this is a perfect way to end. I loved what you just said, Rene, about the importance of finding the right fit for the company, for the organization, because people oftentimes get so worried about that, you know, they don't have as much experience, or maybe their resume isn't as solid as somebody else's that they're, but, you know, passion and excitement about the job, about the company, showing how much you've learned and you know, you've gone out and done your homework before you've come into an interview, you've talked to other people about the company, you know, that oftentimes is going to beat out somebody with more experience.
Yes.
If it's the right fit, if the
Yes.
personality and all of those things are the right fit. And so again, going back to, our goal here with the Farms Leadership Program is to expose people to all of these different opportunities in ag and natural resources, and that there, are so many different kinds of jobs in ag. If you haven't learned that in the last 40 something days, and this was just like a little teeny tip of the iceberg for ag and natural resources in California, like tip of the iceberg, right? That's the cool thing, is that we just showed a few things compared to what's really out there. And hopefully we've opened, your eyes to that, and that we are all here as Rene said, as supporters and mentors and guides. And if you have more questions, if you have people you want to meet, if you have you want to do a mock interview with Rene, there's many others that have offered that. You think back, Monique Benvenu from B Sweet Citrus said the same thing. Many people said the same thing. Let us know if you want to do a mock interview. So please, please, please take advantage of these offers. All of us are here for you to help you connect. And don't be strangers over the summer or whenever you want to connect with us. And Rene, again, I just want to thank you. We've taken up way more than half an hour today of your time.
No problem.
I think it was a great way to end. And if you want to say anything at all to close out, whether it's about AC operations or anything else that you want to share to close us out for the Coffee with the Farmer Resource Manager, please do.
I will say that if those that are interested in ag, it's a great place to be. We have great employees, very passionate employees about ag, and that starts with our CEO, who is someone that obviously has a full plate, but is very supportive of our employees and really reiterates to all of us that it's the employees that make our company. And from him all the way down to, like I said, irrigator, we're all a part of a common goal. And it takes all of us to reach that goal. And I, don't see myself any different than somebody that is driving a tractor in the summer, all, year or outside year round. And in the summer when it's so hot, their job is just as important as mine. And I think that's probably the fun thing about being in ag, because I do see that we like what we do. Obviously there's people that say, oh, I would never want your job, because there's parts of my job that aren't fun. But there's many parts that have been great for me, and meeting our employees and seeing where they come from and sharing where I come from is just always a fun thing to learn, and how they also got into ag. And some of them have been in ag for many, many years, and some are new, just like me. So all of you that are, looking at careers in ag, I would definitely encourage and just look to see what interests you in our industry. There's something out there for you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Rene. Have a wonderful Friday, and we'll see all of you out there at some point, hopefully soon. And again, don't be strangers. Check in with us, email us, call us, whatever you need, let us know. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Happy Friday. We're out.